The title of this video is Healing Emotional Unavailability and Avoidant Attachment Style. So this is a solution-based video that you can use as an instruction if you have an avoidant attachment style or you are emotionally unavailable, or if you know somebody who does have this condition. So first of all, what does it mean to have this? And then how do you fix it? Well, if you get triggered by vulnerability, if you form an attachment with somebody, or at least you try to form an attachment, but for some reason you can't open up or you can't be vulnerable. There's a lot of anxiety. Your nervous system gets easily triggered by the other person's closeness. Because what people do, what happens, we try to merge with the other person. We try to drop the mask. We try to drop all the facade and all the layers of social branding, social marketing, how we put ourselves on display, after we open up to somebody slowly over time. So if you want to have a connection with somebody, if you're dating somebody, if you have a relationship with someone, eventually the mask has to drop. Like, you have to stop playing mimicking and shadow dancing. So when you have avoidant attachment style or emotional unavailability, this is just a label that we used to explain what is happening to people when they get so much anxiety that they can't drop the mask. Or they feel as if when they do drop the mask, they have nothing to maintain the relationship. That's why it's called an insecure attachment. Because that's what it is. The person is insecure to open up. So why? Why do we have avoidant and emotionally unavailable people out there? I mean, we have over 30% of the human population in America, at least, because that's the statistics that are up to date. 30% have an avoidant attachment style. So at least 1/3 of the population have a level of insecurity in which we are constantly triggered, constantly anxious around a person that we're trying to get close to, when we're dating or in a relationship. So this is why sometimes these people say, I need space, I need a time out, I need distance between us. Because when there's distance, you can detach. That means you can go back into the box where you belong, into your little prison in which you don't have to interact with the other person. So when we're talking about avoidant attachment and emotional unavailability, we're talking about an imprisonment of the soul. And this is happening on the somatic level, in the physical body. The soul is imprisoned because the person is insecure. So why is the person insecure? That's what we need to talk about. If you want to heal this, you need to understand, to be insecure means you lack the foundation of safety. So we need to define what safety is, and then how do we create safety in the relationship. Because when there's safety, you're not insecure, you're not going to be avoidant, and you're not going to be emotionally unavailable. So creating safety, that's a solution. How? But first of all, why is there a lack of safety? A lack of safety means a lack of self-efficacy. Self-efficacy means the ability to solve problems and navigate conflict, and the confidence in that ability. So if you are not confident that you can navigate conflicts and resolve them and get the outcomes that you want, which are good for you, you will lack social efficacy or self-efficacy. And second, Insecurity is founded on a lack of self-esteem or self-assurance. Now, what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is based on two components. Number one is confidence. Confidence is your belief that you will make the right decisions when it comes to relationships. And you know how to make the right decisions to get what you want. If you don't have this, you can't have healthy self-esteem. Number two, the other component of healthy self-esteem is self-worth. And self-worth is based on your perception of yourself, the value that you base on yourself. Do you value yourself? Do you believe you are a valuable commodity on the market, so to speak? I know I'm using a very psychopathic language, but your brain has an internal measuring system that is constantly trying to gauge how is my value on the market. Not just based on looks, but based on behavior, personality, intelligence. There's so many factors that define a person's value. So, to have healthy self-esteem, you need to value yourself and what you have. If you don't value yourself, or if you believe your value somehow is low, then you don't have healthy self-esteem. So now that we determined what safety is, how do we get this? Well, it's very simple. You need to get those two components. You need to get self-efficacy and self-esteem. That's all. That's how you cure, which of course is ridiculous, there's no such thing, but this is how you cure avoidant attachment style, which of course is not a style because it's not a character. Unfortunately, people, when we talk about avoidant attachment style, the person we're talking about, which is the avoidant, is getting very defensive. Because to label somebody avoidant means it's an issue of character. There's something wrong with them. Which of course is true, there is something wrong with them. Of course there is. But the person becomes very defensive. And this is why it's actually difficult to make to help people with these videos. Not because there's anything wrong with my communication, the words I'm using, or what I'm talking about, but there's something wrong with the listener. Because the listener is getting easily defensive when I use the language avoidant attachment style or emotional unavailability. Why? Why do I use that language, first of all? Well, because everybody uses that language. I mean, how am I going to reach people if I don't use the language that people are speaking? I mean, this is just a language problem. Like, deal with it. But unfortunately, it gets people defensive. Now, what can I do about this? Nothing. Exactly, nothing. Because if I call somebody an avoidant, and just the basic principle of calling a person an avoidant makes them defensive, that is not my problem. That is not my responsibility. That is not something I can fix. But I can talk about it. So if you have a person like that, or if you are somebody like that, you need to understand it's normal and perfectly human, unfortunately, to feel defensive around this term. Because, you see, if somebody you're dealing with has an avoidant attachment style, to have an avoidant attachment style means to be insecure. To be insecure means the ego defenses are quite weak. If the ego is weak, the ego is fearful. That's why they call it a fearful attachment. If you are afraid of being attacked, the moment somebody points a finger at you and says, "Oh, that's a problem with you," of of course you feel defensive. I mean, like, is it really surprising? Of course not. So if it triggers your nervous system, if you get anxious while watching my videos, if you feel like, oh, or like you get nervous system activation, this is why. Because when we are in a state of fear, that means we are in a state of lack. Like what? We are lacking awareness. We're lacking perspective. Because, like I said before, all that you need to be secure is self-efficacy, meaning you need to believe that you are able to solve your problems and get what you want. And number 2, self-worth. You believe that you have good enough value. Now, be mad at me and hate me if I say this, but that's the bare minimum. That's a bare minimum for human life. If you or you know somebody who does not have if you do not have bare minimum, this needs to change. And I make these videos to offer suggestions on how to change this. Because this is a very low quality of life. And when your nervous system is again, my goodness, it's so easy, isn't it? To activate the nervous system, to trigger people. I mean, are we in kindergarten? Yes, unfortunately we are. But yeah, if your nervous system is activated when I'm talking about this, why? Because I'm activating the guilt, shame circuits in the insecure brain. This sounds so bad. Like I can just see, oh my god, the nervous system being fried while we're listening. Okay. So, when we are insecure, we are easily triggered. We're easily triggered because our sense of self, that we are not good enough, that we are dysfunctional, that there's something wrong with us, that we are the problem, is being reinforced. Meaning, if my videos trigger you, this is why. It's because you, whoever's being triggered, you believe that it's true, that you are dysfunctional, that there is something wrong with you. And I trigger this guilt, this shame, because this is how you de-armor the body. Not by walking on eggshells, not by trying to avoid the avoidant triggers. That's the whole, that's the foundation of the defense. The entire problem of insecurity, of anxiety in relationships, of getting triggered, the core of the issue is the avoidance of the trigger. Because we don't self-reflect, we don't deal with a trigger, we don't fix the problem, we don't, like, all we need is the bare minimum: self-efficacy, self-worth. So how do we get that? Well, first of all, you need to talk to secure people. Because if you have an avoidant attachment style, chances are your whole life you've been surrounded by insecure, unsafe people. You only need one person, only one. Like me or somebody else, usually people refer to a therapist, but a friend is ideal, who you assume to be secure, and you try to have conflicts with them. You try to communicate with them. And you try to learn through that practice, what does it take to fix problems? The reason why an avoidant attachment style can last for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, people live their entire life being avoidant, is because they are avoiding conflict. literally. If you don't know how to handle conflict, how do you learn? Through conflict, obviously, like, I mean, really. So, if you lack self-efficacy, the reason is that you've been avoiding the triggers, or you've been avoiding the conflicts. So maybe you get triggered, and your first reaction is to react based on your past. So if in your past your reaction was to self-isolate, to shut down, to do nothing, then you will remain an avoidant for as long as you continue to do that. If in the past your reaction was to lash out, to dominate the other person, to try to defeat them until they leave you, in order to control them, then you will also remain an avoidant for the rest of your life, for as long as you remain in that reaction. So you need to know your reactions. What are your reactions or triggers? How do you navigate them? That is part of healthy self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is your ability to solve problems. But first you need to know what the problem is. And then when you know what the problem is, what is your reaction to the problem? And when your reaction hasn't been working, then just try a different reaction. Why is this hard? Obviously it's hard, otherwise you would have done it already, because it's kind of obvious, like, really? Like kindergarten? You have not done it before, or the avoidant hasn't done it before, because the defense is rigid in the body. It's a nervous system programming. The body is designed to do the same things over and over again. So you feel pressure to shut down. An enormous amount of pressure. And when you do try to do things differently and finally learn how to navigate conflict and do what's healthy and become more flexible, you feel enormous amount of shame. Why? Because it validates your lack of self-esteem. Your attempt to get self-efficacy validates your lack of self-esteem. Why? Well, if I go to a job and I don't know what I'm doing, and the boss says, "Oh, you're trying new tricks? Okay, show me your new tricks." And you're like, what do I do? Let's try this, let's try that. And the boss says, "What are you doing? This is not good for our company. This is not good enough. Maybe you should go back to what you were doing before in your lower pay job." This is an enormous narcissistic injury. It's an enormous embarrassment. It reinforces the already dominant sense that you are not good enough, that there's something wrong with you. So if you try to find the upgrade, get the promotion, do the job differently, the shame gets you back into the box. This is why it's so rigid, this defense, and many people struggle to heal. So what do? Well, first of all, you need to understand that the shame that you feel after trying something and failing, which is normal, just like a baby that learns how to walk and then falls. That shame is a completely normal reaction, but it's based on an illusion. It's a delusional fantasy defense. It's reinforcing the past, the perception of the parent, which was tyrannical, which of course is a tyrannical perception. I mean, really? You're trying to improve your life, and the first thing you feel is that you are a failure for trying to do better, really? That's delusional. So you need to accept that this is delusional. The body is delusional, not you, because it has nothing to do with you. So if people listen to my videos and feel defensive, they're not feeling defensive, their body feels defensive. Because the body creates a shell, it creates a false self-overlay, an identity disorder, a fantasy defense, an armoring around itself to put the inner child into a box, in this armor, which is a box, like the Cancer crab shell in astrology. It buttresses, it protects you against embarrassment and further shame. How? That every time you try something that could possibly get prosecuted or judged, you will feel shame. So to avoid prosecution, your body creates shame to bring you back into the box. It's like the fly experiment. This was an experiment on flies that you put a swarm of flies in a box for a week. You close that box. And then after a week, you open the box. And now, even though the box is open, the flies are still in the box for the rest of their life. Even though the box is open. So this is exactly what is happening in the nervous system. So when people take things personal, they start to attack me, they get defensive, they say I lack compassion, I'm such an evil person, blah, 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 blah. The person themselves is not doing this. So this is the human AI. The character armoring is doing this. So if you deal with an avoidant attachment style person, and you try to help them by playing their therapist, like you try to tell them what I tell you, or you show them this video, and then they shut down, and they ghost you, and they don't talk to you for another month, this is why. The body is trying to get back into the box. Because that's what a person believes is their safety. We go where we believe it is safe. Not where it's actually safe. We believe it's safe. And we believe that anywhere outside of that is not safe. Because every time we try to go there, boom, shame. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm inadequate. I'm a failure. I'm an imposter. I'm a fake, right? You know how often avoidants love bomb you? They put you on a pedestal, they idealize you, and then they disappear. Like, what's going on? Hot and cold. They love bomb you because they've been repressing all these feelings that they wanted to share so badly with other people their whole life to avoid embarrassment. They stayed in the box. So now they get one chance, one opportunity to get out of the box. They're like, yes, I'm going to give you all my love. Everything that I always wanted to share. Here, I give it to you. And then they go back. So this is why. This is also why narcissists love bomb. Because actually with a narcissist and avoidance is the body, it does the same thing. So this is why often people get confused. Am I dealing with a narcissist or an avoidant? The intention, the energy is different. Because the avoidant really does want to connect with you. And they're so desperate to get out of a box because they've been suffocated for so long. They try to get out. But the shame, it keeps like a barrage of shame is coming over. All this fear of embarrassment, this fear of being a fraud, of being found out, that you're worthy of only being discarded as you've been discarded before. Just overwhelming the nervous system. So the person says, I need space. So the person's very dysregulated. But on the outside, it looks like they're cold, they're neglectful, they're not really talking to you, they're not doing anything. They're just staring at you like you're not even there. What's going on? Because they're dissociating. They're burying their feelings because every time they try to deal with their feelings, they have no idea what they're doing. Because every time they try to deal with their feelings, they were shut down. Every time they tried to fix a problem with their environment, with their parents, every time they tried to engage in a conflict, they were attacked, prosecuted, shamed, punished. So it's like you hire somebody for a job and you need 3 years experience, but they have 0 minutes 0 seconds. 0 seconds experience. So how is this going to work? So the person feels like a failure because, of course, they are failing. But the nervous system takes it personal because it triggers the fear of abandonment, because it's like being a child. I'm still a child. I'm still afraid that mommy and daddy are gonna leave me. Like I deserve it. It's about me. It becomes personal. So this is why avoidants are very defensive, and they do take many things very personal. Which of course is ironic, because really taking my videos personal when I use such a completely rational, logical, computer technical language, and you take technical language personal? Yes, they do. It doesn't matter how you say it, doesn't matter what words you use, you will not be able to prevent the activation of the nervous system, which is the triggering of the fear of abandonment. It's impossible. But yet, I still get comments. I still get people coming to my videos telling me, can't you say it nicer? Can't you pamper me and tell it to me in a nicer way? I don't know how, but if you said it like this, I wouldn't get activated. I wouldn't get triggered in my low self-esteem, which I believe to be true, and I don't want you to remind me of my own beliefs. So could you please stop talking about what I believe to be true? Thank you. Right? So if somebody has low self-esteem and they feel they have low value or they have low social efficacy, and they come to me to tell me how I'm the problem for triggering something in them that they already believe. What kind of a madhouse is this? Is this some kind of a freak show? Is this some kind of a joke? But that's exactly what's happening. I'm telling you. So if you are dealing with an avoidant or an emotionally unavailable person, it doesn't matter how you speak to them. They're still gonna tell you, you're just not the right person. I will find somebody who's nicer, more compassionate, a better therapist, a better partner, a better friend. They're looking for somebody that does not exist. They're looking for somebody that's not going to trigger their fear of abandonment. That's not going to remind them of their own beliefs, what they themselves feel like, come on, subconsciously. Their low self-esteem, their low self-efficacy. That's all it's about. How can you avoid, like the name suggests, looking at yourself, your self-image, your self-perception? You want a partner who's literally looking at you 24/7. That's why it's so overwhelming, right? Because they're constantly looking at us, constantly loving us and thinking about us. Oh my God, the horror, right? You want that person to not trigger your own self-reflection, your own self-perception, when they're constantly like looking at you like this. Of course, that's delusional. That's never going to happen. But that's exactly what the avoidant feels that they need. Why? Because it's a lack of self-awareness. They think if I can get the right partner who doesn't trigger me, maybe then my problems will be solved. If they can make me feel safe. When actually safety is found within. And whoever you're dealing with outside, if they match that, good. If they don't match that, then go somewhere else. It's that simple. Relationships are not... It's like the prerequisite for a healthy relationship. You have self-efficacy, you have self-esteem, they have the same, you are compatible, you love each other, you have a brain, they have a brain, good. Beyond that, you got the foundation, so that's what matters. We're talking about the foundation. If the foundation that your relationship is based on, which is you, this is why we get so defensive. Oh yes, I will point the finger at you for all eternity, because that's exactly where it belongs. The power is right there behind the screen. So I will point at the one who's responsible for their problems for the rest of my life, which of course is also me. I am responsible for my problems. So yes, there's the stability, there's the security, there's the self-efficacy, which is going to lead to healthy relationships, not in a perfect, compassionate, pampering service provider, parent, partner. It's never going to happen. Unfortunately, narcissists and unconscious severe avoidance do look for that. And they're hoping that someday they're going to find that, and that they are able to settle for somebody who's good enough in fulfilling this codependent slave role. Harsh reality, red pill to swallow, but that's exactly what's going on here. Now, if you find this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe. If you're interested in my services, my personal readings, my astrology, or my healing services in psychology and de-armoring therapy, please refer to my description down below. You can message me at any given time. And thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.